just stop for a minute and appreciate the irony and the fact that the Disney Fox deal was officially announced the same day that The Last Jedi premiered in theaters, given the fact that Fox used to be the distributor for Star Wars? I know they didn't plan that in any way, but it's a fun coincidence. So Star Wars The Last Jedi is the newest Star Wars movie. This is episode 8 and the second part of this new sequel trilogy. And this movie picks up right where The Force Awakens left off. The First Order is pursuing the Resistance, and Rey has sought out Luke Skywalker to help her become a Jedi. That's about all I'll give plot-wise because I don't want to get into spoilers. I am planning on making a spoiler video, and I said I was going to make a spoiler video for Justice League 2. That's going to happen. It'll be a short video, but it will happen. Now, like the majority of America, I saw The Last Jedi on Thursday night. I was super excited for it. You know, it was 7 o'clock IMAX showing, the first showing in my town. I loved The Force Awakens and I really like most of the Star Wars movies, so I was pumped for this thing. I sat down, I watched it, and my first thought leaving the theater was, I got to see that again. So the next day, in the middle of the afternoon, I saw The Last Jedi again. So I've seen the movie twice now. This is the first time I actually had to draft out like notes for my video. I was like, I don't even know where I'm gonna start. I just don't want this to be like a big jumbled mess. So I got a list of things I liked, and I also have a decent list of things I didn't like. Starting out with what I liked, this being a sequel to The Force Awakens, the characters that were introduced in The Force Awakens are still awesome. A big standout in this movie was actually Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. I love what they do with his character. There's nice evolution from where he was in The Force Awakens, being kind of like a Darth Vader wannabe and not being able to live up to the legacy and the legend of his grandfather, and him evolving and turning into his own character. Also, the main character from The Force Awakens, Daisy Ridley as Rey, also really good. For her, it was another natural evolution from The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi. She is reminiscent of Luke in the original trilogy. She's optimistic about this rebellion and training with Luke, but throughout the movie, certain things are revealed to her. It's just like, that's not the answer that I was expecting. There's actually a lot of things in this movie where you get answers for things, and they aren't what you're expecting. I'll talk about that more a little bit later, but I love the evolution of Rey's character throughout the movie. Poe Dameron makes his return. He has a cool story arc, dealing with him being like a young, cocky, arrogant pilot, but also with this darkness rising and the resistance dwindling, Poe has to step up, and he has to be more than that. Certain times he might make a decision which, when you pull back and you look at the full picture, it's easy to go like, that might not have been the right call. But when I put myself in Poe's shoes, I can be like, I would have done the same thing. And hitting on one of the tougher subjects to talk about with this movie, but Carrie Fisher as Leia, her role is expanded in this movie. This movie was finished by the time of her death. They did not edit her role in any way, as far as I know, and she was great. There's actually a big chunk of the movie where she isn't present, but you feel her presence throughout the entire movie, like some of the stuff with Rey training with Luke and Kylo Ren and the stuff going on with the Resistance. And one character in The Force Awakens who I thought was okay, I thought the execution of him was a little weird, was Supreme Leader Snoke. I liked Snoke a lot more in this movie. I like the stuff Andy Serkis was able to do with the motion capture work. There are actually some times when I'm starting to notice when Andy Serkis is doing a motion capture character, certain facial expressions that Snoke does are very reminiscent of Caesar and King Kong. It's all like in the mouth. That was a fun little touch I noticed. But I like Snoke. I like the character that they establish of Snoke in this movie. There's a couple scenes with Snoke I felt why people fear him. I'm like, yep, that guy is the menacing new emperor. And with The Last Jedi being a sequel to The Force Awakens, there are also some new characters introduced. And this character, well, a new character, but Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, he was so good in this movie. I love Mark Hamill. The more I see Mark Hamill in things, the more I like him. Whether it's press releases, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Batman. The guy's a great actor. And the character of Luke Skywalker in this movie, he's damaged. He's not okay. In the trailer, when he goes, "It's time for the Jedi to end," you really feel the reasons for why Luke is feeling that way. You kind of start to side with him in certain parts of this movie. When he's training Rey, so much of the time, Rey is like, yeah, I'm gonna be a Jedi. We're gonna stop Kylo Ren. You're gonna come back and lead the Resistance. And Luke is just like, no, it's not like that. The Jedi need to end. And without going into spoilers, again, you really understand why he feels that way. Another thing I really loved about this movie, the visuals and the direction. Rian Johnson directed this movie. He's the director of Brick, Looper, also a couple episodes of Breaking Bad. Really, I haven't seen Rian Johnson do anything that I haven't been completely on board with. And this movie, his direction is sleek. The battle scene on Crate gives us some really cool visuals, like when those Resistance ships are going across those salt plains. Also, the island that Luke and Rey were training on, Octu, I thought that was really cool. I really like the worlds that were set up in this movie, which is something I've never really had a problem with Star Wars. Even the worlds in the prequels, I like Naboo and Camino and Mustafar. I thought those were all really cool. The Porgs on Octu, those were a little weird. I feel like you didn't need those in the movie because the only purpose they really serve is just fueling the Star Wars merch machine. They don't really have any extra value beyond that. Now, this movie being the second movie of the trilogy, most of the times that means this is the dark one, the slower paced one, the deeper one. And that's what you get with The Last Jedi. This is a much slower paced movie than The Force Awakens. I love The Force Awakens because The Force Awakens was fun, it was exciting, it was a fun adventure space opera. This movie, similar to Empire Strikes Back, is slower, it's more thoughtful, it takes its time. That's not to say there aren't still really fun, exciting, fast-paced scenes, because there are, but this one is just a very different movie. They really take their time with it. Narratively, some of the stuff in this movie, they take some strong, bold choices with the Star Wars universe. Force Awakens was criticized for playing it too safe. Some people thought it was just a New Hope rehash. I personally don't feel that way, but I can see how some people would. This movie, though, it takes everything you knew about Star Wars, completely flips it on its head. There was a couple things in here I was like, whoa, we're going that way. Well, I didn't expect that. And some of those scenes are almost like culture shock. You're like, I don't know if I like that. But the more I personally thought about and marinated on those scenes, the more I did really love those scenes. Another thing that was criticized about The Force Awakens, which I personally don't get, was the John Williams score. Not that it was bad, but people were just like, oh, it's so forgettable, there's no new themes. But let me tell you this about The Last Jedi, is that the score in this movie, it's a complete character. The score is used so well, he brings back some reoccurring themes that just fit in the movie, and even themes from The Force Awakens, like Rey's theme and the March of the Resistance. Both songs I think are great, and Kylo Ren's little, it's not really a theme, more of a motif, that whole like bum 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 bum. You guys know what I'm talking about? That little thing, I like it. John Williams' score in this movie just okay, now getting into things that I didn't like about the movie. I said a little earlier that this movie is slower paced, it's deeper, it takes its time. The result of that is I do think the movie is a hair too long. It's 2.5 hours, this is the longest Star Wars movie. And I've noticed this with a lot of movies that are around that 2.5 to 3 hour mark, is the flow of the movie feels like it's wrapping up and then they go, okay, we gotta go do that one last thing. And it almost kind of feels like there's an epilogue at the end of the movie, which is the last half hour or so. That happens in The Last Jedi. I did like the last half hour. So then I was thinking, okay, what could they shave off? The answer was clear. It was a lot of the stuff on Canto Bight, which is this new casino style planet. Finn and this new character named Rose go there, and I really do I like John Boyega, I like Kelly Marie Tran. I didn't mention either of them in my positive section, but they were both really good in the movie. It was just what was done with their characters I didn't really love. I felt like they were sent on this mission that is necessary for the plot of the movie, however, it dragged on a little bit. There were some weird CGI creatures in that casino too. I was just like, was that really necessary? It can feel a little prequel-y, some of the stuff that happens on Canto Bight. Also, like I was saying, this movie takes some strong, bold directions with the plot and with its characters. Some of the stuff, the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Some of the things, though, I thought and I was like, I'm open to it, but I definitely need more explanation. Now, Empire Strikes Back does leave you with questions as well, and most of those things are explained in Return of the Jedi, so that might happen with Episode 9 as well. But for now, like, especially with certain uses of the Force, I'm like, I didn't know the Force could do that. I'm glad that the Force mythology is expanding, but, like, talk to me, Goose, explain this. And one more negative I had, and this ties into the Canto Bight stuff, was Benicio del Toro's character, who I can't really talk about without getting into spoilers. I just felt like you didn't really need him, you felt a little wasted. But it's important to remember, when you hear people like Benicio del Toro, and Laura Dern, and Max von Sydow, and Gwendolyn Christie, when you hear these big names are in the movie, not every person in Star Wars has to be Luke Skywalker. Not everyone has to have a fully fleshed out background. That being said, I feel like Benicio del Toro didn't really need to be in this movie. Nothing against the guy in general, like, he is a good actor. It's just the character I wasn't a big fan of. And this is a problem that's kind of sprinkled throughout the movie. Now, all the Star Wars movies, they do have comedy in them. I found The Force Awakens to be a little more comedic than some of the other movies, but the comedy in that movie, it did work. And there's a lot of comedy in The Last Jedi. Now, a lot of those jokes, they do land, but they don't always fit. At times, it actually kind of felt like what I'm going to call Marvel humor. And that's not a slam against Marvel, because I like Marvel's movies. But Marvel comedy and Star Wars, I didn't need that. So trying to put a bow on all of this, The Last Jedi, I liked the movie a lot. It's such a hard movie to peg though. Like I said, the first time I walked out of the movie, I was like, I have to see it again before I review it. Coming out of the movie though, the more I think about it, the more I do really like it. Like, there's some stuff in this movie, it's some of my favorite stuff in Star Wars history. Things in this movie that I absolutely love. But also there were a couple things in this movie that didn't really land with me. The way I see it is The Force Awakens, as much as I loved the movie, it did play it safe. It was a nice, even movie. A really good, even movie. Now, The Last Jedi takes a lot more chances. What that results in is that the highs of the movie are really high. I think it's a lot better than The Force Awakens. However, the lows of the movie are a little bit lower than the lows of The Force Awakens. I know some people were kind of divided on this movie. I see this movie, though, it's reminding me so much of Empire Strikes Back. I'm not going to try to fool you guys. Obviously, I wasn't alive in 1980 when The Empire Strikes Back came out. But if you know anything about Star Wars history, you know that when The Empire Strikes Back came out, it had a very lukewarm response from both critics and fans. However, if you're walking down the street, like 4 out of the 5 people that you ask, hey, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? They're gonna say Empire Strikes Back. I can guarantee this movie is going to grow in reputation over time. As it stands right now, I had a blast watching The Last Jedi. There was a couple of things in there that was like culture shock to me, but the characters landed, the score was great, the action and direction was really good. This is a worthy sequel to The Force Awakens and a worthy addition to the Star Wars saga. So, Star Wars, The Last Jedi, have you guys seen it? What did you guys think of it? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys liked it, you can click subscribe and check out some of my other videos, and I'll catch you guys next time.